I'd like to call to order the August 11th, 2022 special meeting of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. This electronic meeting is being streamed live for the public to attend and recorded as a public record. Recording of the meeting will be available at www.ncwildlife.org. Commissioners are reminded to say your names before making motions and seconds and before commenting. At this time, I'll call on Margot Minkler to do a roll call of commissioners present. Margot?
Good morning. I'm gonna do a roll call for commissioners present. Monty Crump,
Here.
Tommy Fonville,
Here.
David Hoyle.
Here.
John Coley, Wes Seegers, Mark Craig, Tom Berry,
Here.
Brad Stanback, Jim Ruffin,
Here.
Ray Clifton, Kelly Davis,
Here.
Steve Wyndham, Landon Zimmer, John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander,
Here.
Tom Hayslip,
Here.
J.C. Cole,
Yeah.
Mike Alford.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Appreciate all commissioners being present.
Brad Stanback is present. Just logged in.
Yeah, Margo, this is Tommy. Did you hear me? I'm present.
Yes, sir, and I've marked both of you present.
Thank you.
North Carolina General Statutes 138A-15 mandates that the commission chair shall remind all commissioners of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict under this chapter, and that the chair also inquires as to whether there are any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the commission at this time. It is the duty of each commissioner who is aware of such personal conflict of interest or of an appearance of conflict to notify the chairman of the same. At this time, I'll ask, are there any notifications for conflicts of interest for any business before the agenda today? Hearing none, we'll move forward to rulemaking, and I will call on Christian Waters to present temporary rulemaking, 15A, 10C rules. Christian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. I will be presenting temporary rules for consideration in sections 10C 0300, 0400, and 0700. Just as a reminder, at your meeting in April, rule changes for game fish and non-game fish in inland fishing waters, as well as game fish in coastal fishing waters, were adopted. There were a total of 46 rules. These rules were presented to the Rules Review Commission in May, but approximately 20 letters were received objecting to those rule changes and requesting a legislative review. So at your June meeting, we brought forward and you approved temporary rule amendments for 29 of those rules in order to ensure that we had appropriate conservation measures in place. 4 of those dealt with game fish in inland waters. 24 of those dealt with non-game in inland waters. And then there was 1 rule that clarified game fish when found in coastal fishing waters. We're of course now bringing these for your consideration for adoption. Exhibit A1, it summarizes the public comments that we received. There were actually 5 comments received, and staff did not identify anything there requiring further consideration. However, in addition to those comments, we did receive a letter from the Marine Fisheries Commission, as well as one from the Division of Marine Fisheries. Those are also part of Exhibit A1. The letters demonstrated that the fundamental understanding of statutory responsibilities and jurisdiction, specifically in reference to species management. The primary issue raised by those letters was that the WRC is trying to manage and regulate marine and estuarine resources. Statutorily, marine and estuarine resources do not exist in inland waters. While some of these species that are addressed in these temporary rules use a wide range of coastal habitats, they are legally wildlife resources when they are found in inland fishing waters. And the Wildlife Resources Commission is the sole authority has the sole authority to regulate species in inland fishing waters, and more specifically, a mandate or a responsibility to conserve those species when in its jurisdiction. And so just a reminder that these temporary rules address inland waters and only apply to inland waters. If there's no questions about the comments, we can move to Exhibit A2.
Christian, I'll note the commissioners did receive a letter was distributed to the commission where I responded to the two letters from the Division of Marine Fisheries and Marine Fisheries Commission. And you have those for your records, and hopefully you all had an opportunity to review those as well as part of the public comment. Go ahead, Christian.
All right, so Exhibit A2, excuse me, is the voting exhibit that contains the rule text as proposed. Some of these are more technical changes in formatting and simply clarifications. However, there are rules that establish needed size and creel limits and seasons, and whether a species may be sold when found in inland waters. And specifically on the issue of sale, there are some non-game fish, alewife blueback herring, blue crab, and bowfin that are prohibited for sale and have been prohibited for 10 plus years. And we are just simply clarifying that already existing rule. There are other species such as Atlantic croaker, black drum, bluefish, cobia, king mackerel, sheep's head, Spanish mackerel, and spot, which we are proposing that could not be sold when caught in inland waters. And that is consistent the way that it's handled recreationally in coastal waters. Unless there are questions, staff recommends approval of the temporary rules as presented in Exhibit A2.
Are there any questions or comment from any of the commissioners to Christian about any of these proposed temporary rules? Hearing none at this time, I'd entertain a motion in a second for approval of Exhibit A.
So moved.
Got a motion by Steve Wyndham. Do we have
Second.
got a second from Dave Hoyle. So we have a motion and a second for the approval of Exhibit A2. Are there any further comment or discussion or debate? Hearing none, I'll ask Margot for a roll call. Margot?
I'm going to do a roll call for Exhibit A2. Monty Crump,
Yes.
Tommy Fumble,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley, Wes Seegers, Mark Craig,
Yes.
Tom Barry,
Yes.
Brad Stanback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton, Kelly Davis,
yes,
Steve Wyndham, Landon Zimmer, John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander,
Yes.
Tom Hayslip,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on now to the next item on the agenda. And I'll call on Darren Barnes, who Land and Water Access Division Chief, to present temporary rulemaking adoption of 1510D rules related to Jordan Game Land in Chatham, Durham, Orange, and Wake counties. Darren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we're working with Exhibit B1 and B2, which are related to proposed temporary rules in NCAC 10D.0240 related to Jordan Lake Game Lands. As you recall, these rules were in our previous rule cycle, 22-23 rule cycle, and did receive 10 letters and are currently awaiting their 30 days at the legislature related to those 10 letters. And so staff is recommending to move forward with temporary rules so that we have rules in place for this coming hunting season. You can see in Exhibit B1, our public comments for these temporary rules. We did have 5 public comments, 2 disagree and 3 in support, as you can see on the screen and in your packets. And so based on these comments, we still need to move forward with this temporary rule. This rule is necessary to manage the activities on the game land. And it does include the amendment to allow hunter camping in the posted camping areas from September the 1st through the last day of February and March 31st through May 14th. And the camping in these areas will be limited to 14 consecutive days in a 30-day period. And at this time, staff does recommend adoption of these temporary rules.
At this time, then I would ask, are there any comments or questions for staff related to Exhibit B2 for Darren for these temporary rules at Jordan Game Land? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of Exhibit B.
Tom Berry, so moved.
Alexander, second.
You get that, Margot?
Yes, sir.
So we now have a motion and a second on the floor to approve Exhibit B. Is there any further discussion, comment? From any of the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote at this time. Roll call vote by Margot.
I'm going to do a roll call vote for Exhibit B2. Monty Crump,
Yes.
Tommy Fumble,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley, Wes Seegers, Mark Craig,
Yes.
Tom Barry,
Tom Berry, yes.
Brad Standback,
Brad Standback, yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Jim Ruffin, yes.
Ray Clifton, Kelly Davis,
Kelly Davis, yes.
Steve Wyndham, Landon Zimmer, John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander,
Yes.
Tom Hayslip,
Tom Hayslip, yes.
J.C. Cole,
J.C. Cole, yes.
Mike Alford.
Alfred, yes.
Chairman, motion passes.
Okay, motion passes. That concludes our business portion of the call meeting today. The only comments I have as chair is appreciate the commissioners taking out of the time to call in to be able to have this meeting today, and look forward to seeing you all next week at our regular meeting. And at this time, I'll call on Cam Ingram if you have any comments.
Chairman, I again just want to thank the commissioners for their attendance and staff for getting this stuff presented to us in a timely manner. Thanks.
Hearing no further business, meeting adjourned.